be caution, hot. And she really wanted to get her point across. And I wanted to buy hot red pepper flakes. I just didn't realize how hot they really were. And I kid you not, I bought these pepper flakes that must have been born on the surface of the sun. When you do kimchi, you sort of mix it all into this big bowl when it's all ready. For a day and a half, my hands were they were twice the size they are now, and they were throbbing.
My gosh.
And anything I touched, like if I touched my cheek, like if I did this, there'll be like a streak of pain. So. All right, welcome to episode 818 of Ed Talks Live. My name is Ed Rush.
Wait, what?
So I decided to not number the episodes. Everybody numbers their episodes 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, this is the first one. That sounds so lame. So I decided to pick my favorite number. By the way, if you can see in the studio, I don't know if you're listening or watching, I have a license plate for my old Corvette that was literally Deuteronomy 8:18. That's why that's my favorite number. But introducing Kristin. What's up? How are you?
I'm great. Nice to be here, Ed. So what are we going to cover today?
All right. So 3 things. First things, we're going to cover some current events. I've been getting a lot of questions about this whole trade war situation. China, what happens with my 401k? We'll talk about that first. Second, I'm going to teach you how not to be a stalker. Third, I've got a question from our audience. Actually, a really good question. It's a God Talks question. How can you tell the difference between your voice and God's voice? So let's go. You ready to rock and roll?
I am. First question I have, though, before we get started. How was your week?
It was awesome. So we went and we had a certification event in Maricopa, Arizona. I don't know if you know where Maricopa is, but basically 45 minutes south of Phoenix. And my friend Patricia King lives there. I went and attended an event at her studio a year and a half ago. That's actually why I did this event at her studio. But she said to me when I went to Maricopa, she said there's 2 hotels in town. That's it. By the way, there's only 2 hotels. And she said, the first one is a casino. She's like, it's called the Ak-Chin Casino. And she goes, you can stay there. Or the other hotel for people who have conscience issues staying at a casino is the La Quinta Inn. And I was like, well, I have a conscience issue staying at the La Quinta Inn. I was like, and by the way, I didn't say that. I thought of that joke a year later. You ever notice how like stories sometimes sound a lot better like a year later? I think out of honesty, I should tell you, I didn't tell her that. I just told her that I would be staying at the casino. But yeah, dude, we did our certification event. We had about 70 attendees live in the room. We had about 40 some people who are watching on Zoom. This is the event where I teach people how to be coaches using the God Talks process. And they go out and crush it, dude. And we had some crazy stories. So I'm going to tell you one quick story. There was a attendee named Jamie. And Jamie had never, ever done a deal ever, like literally never had a business, never done a deal. She took God Talk certification about 2 months ago, and she came into the program a little skeptical, honestly. And she basically was telling herself, I'm not going to actually charge people money for this. I'm just going to be nice. Well, she had a coaching call with me. And on the call, she's like, I don't want to charge money. I just want to be nice. And I was like, whoa. Like, wait a second. What's the dip? There's no like, it's not like there's 2 poles, right? There's not like there's like you either charge money and be a total jerk, or you don't charge money and you're like, nice. I said, Jamie, here's the deal. 2 weeks from meeting in Maricopa, I need you to close a single deal. I don't care if it's $100, $500, whatever, $5,000. I said, if you do, I'm going to put you on stage and I'm going to have you tell the story. Well, guess what, man? She closed a $900 deal. How about that?
That's amazing.
So she was on stage, okay, and she's like, the whole God Talks thing, she said, has been very transformative for her. And she said, on the way, this is her story. She said, on the way to the event, she was driving, and she said, I just decided I was just going to start to pray for people. And she's like, I'm driving behind this person, and I just start praying. I'm just praying for this person in front of me, which I thought was kind of strange, because if I was to do that, my prayer slot for that person would be like 3 seconds, because that's how long it takes me to pass them. You know what I'm saying? So like, first of all, I was very convicted about the speed in which I was driving, and don't send me letters. I'm a fighter pilot. I like going fast. I'm trying to tame that. But anyway, she's like, I was just sitting behind this person. I was just like praying for them. And then all of a sudden, God actually starts to speak to her about this person. And she's praying over this person's destiny, and she's praying over this person's future. And the person in the lane actually moves over to the right lane, and then they get off at the exit. And God says to this woman, I want you to follow. I want you to
Oh my
follow,
goodness.
follow that car. Now, I just want to let you know, like, I love listening to God. I love obeying God. I love hearing his voice. But I would have said, no, I don't think I'm going to do that today. And just so you know, it's okay every once in a while to like just push back. But I'm not going to follow this person like it's some kind of stalker. You get arrested for stuff like that. So she literally follows the person all the way back to their home. And God's like, hey, I want you to go knock on the door.
Oh my gosh.
Second part, right? So the second part where I'm like, oh no, hey, you don't follow somebody home, knock on their door, and not in 2025. So anyway, she knocks on the door and she said, hey, she's like, hey, I was just following you. I was just following you down the street, you know? And she goes, I feel like God has some things that he wants to share with you. Would that be okay? And she started to speak of this person's destiny. And the woman in the door started to cry. And she goes, stop. My name is Destiny.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
So she started speaking about this person's destiny. Then the woman in the door said, I've been so discouraged and frustrated, and I've been asking God just to send me some kind of like, hint or something like that. Anyway, that's the kind of story that I heard out of certification. What do you think about that?
I think that's amazing. And I stacked my desk with, no joke, Kleenex, and I just grabbed one.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I stacked my desk with cold brew coffee.
I've got
So
that too. But I did grab Kleenexes. I'm like, all right, God, let's move.
It's amazing. It's truly, truly amazing. I would just say I'm not like a big, like, I know I have some friends of mine who will literally walk up to anyone at any time and say, can I pray for you? I'm not that's not my thing. I like praying for people. I don't do a lot of that in public. I was at the Dutch Brothers in Maricopa. For real. You can't write this stuff. I was at the Dutch Brothers in Maricopa. This lady walks up. She orders 2 drinks and like a banana. And she hands the person a 20. The guy said it's $15.20. She hands him a 20 and says, no, keep the change. And the guy said, oh, thanks a lot. Like they had this little interchange. And God goes, hey, go pray for her. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. And just so you know, I will literally say that to God. I'm more than happy to have that conversation. And I think he is too. I said, look, I don't want to do that. Like I'm getting ready to teach today. I'm going to be teaching for like 9 hours. Plus it's a little weird, God's like, well, you should. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I shouldn't. And he's like, well, it'll be good for you and her. And I go, I don't know. Like, I think that coffee will be good for me. That's coming out that window in a second. But sure enough, I looked over and I said, hey, do you work here in town? She works at Home Depot. And we just started a conversation. And we were just talking about Home Depot. We were talking about, like, I own part of a tech company that's working with Home Depot. And I just said, man, that work that you do there is so great. I'm thankful for what you do. And I love Home Depot. And I said, where are you going today? She goes, actually, I'm going to a doctor's office. She goes, up in Phoenix. It's going to be about a 45-minute drive. She goes, I've got a condition and I'm actually not even sure if I'm going to be able to keep my legs. And all of a sudden, I just like my heart just goes, and I felt like a jerk for what happened 5 minutes before, where I'm like, you really want the coffee. And so I just said, hey, listen, I'm going to this event today where I'll be teaching and it's a prayer event and I'm going to be praying for you today. I think it's the reason that we met. And she goes, thank you so much. That would be so meaningful. I've just felt so alone. And she started to walk away. And I said, you want me to pray for you now? And she came back. She's like, that would be amazing. I had this wonderful moment where I got to pray for this person. Anyway, what a fun journey, right? So like, sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes you don't want to listen to God. and by the way, the worst thing that can happen, I've had it happen one time. That person just goes, nah, that's kind of a private thing for me. And then we moved on and that was it. So anyway, yeah, we had this amazing event in Maricopa, Arizona, where I stayed at the casino. I didn't gamble or anything like that, even though I don't think I have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that, with anyone gambling, I should say. But yeah, stayed there, 2-day event. It was unbelievable. And I just am so thrilled to see God moving this like army of certified coaches into the world to help people have conversations with God. How amazing is that?
I think that's the coolest thing. Honestly, I didn't even know you were having your certification, or I would have prayed over you last week. Speaking of last week, we had the Great American Depression, 2 days of toil. What is the deal with the tariff situation?
April 7th to April 9th, the Great American Depression. By the way, the amount of people that lost their mind in 2 days, unbelievable. I'm not talking a minute about the difference between the United States and China. Actually, I'll just do it now. Have you ever seen a Chinese tour group? Like, have you ever seen the bus pull up? It's the same time, same thing every time. someone walks out with a little yellow flag, right? You know what I'm talking about? The person
Yes.
with the clipboard and the flag.
Yes.
They literally will walk out, and every other person will walk out of the bus uh, and follow the person with the yellow flag. Have you ever seen an American tour group? Actually, have you ever seen like a high school field trip? You know what I'm saying? Like it is the complete opposite. And it's crazy because our two cultures are so different. I mean, if you gave like the 10 Chinese people 10 jet skis, they would ride those jet skis like five by five in a column of two straight together. If you gave Americans two jet skis, it's everybody, two dudes racing each other, a couple holding their hands, being like, I've always known we could be together on jet skis. Like everybody would doing their own thing. And by the way, that sticks to the height of this entire thing. By the way, I found like 3 minutes for real. I found like 3 minutes of our president saying my favorite word. I don't call it China anymore, Kristin. I call it China. China. Hold on a second. I'm going to play this clip. Hang on.
Let's say China. 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 You go over to China. 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 You take China. 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 I love them. China.
I love them.
China. 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 I have to have my China. China. China because China. 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 China, 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 China.
Oh my goodness. I have to stop it. I have to stop it right there. So just so you know, I love our president and respect him. This is not me making fun of the president. I just love the way he says China. Yeah. So and he says, I just need them. I think that was an edit. I think that was a cut. Hang on.
China, China, China now. China, China. You know, China.
I know China very well. China, China.
Should we just go? Keep going.
China, China, China.
China, China, China.
Northwest Wisconsin, where I'm from.
It's China to me.
Northwest Wisconsin, where I'm from. Anyway, from now on, I need the tissues for a different reason. From now on the show, Kristin, we're going to call it China.
China.
China. So we had the Great American Depression, 2 days of tariffs.
What do you think is going to happen? Yeah.
So here's the crazy thing. First of all, we are legit in a trade war. I think maybe if I was an American foreign policy person, I wouldn't call it a war. I would call it a discussion or something like that. And really what happened last week was a whole bunch of countries came to the table and said, hey, we're willing to negotiate some tariffs with you. Now, what's crazy, I didn't even know this, honestly. Like, I know a lot about our economics, the fiscal situation of our country. I had no idea how lopsided the trading was. Like, we would send a car to Germany and get hit for like 25, 50, 100%, depending on the car. They would send a car to us and we would basically hit them on nothing. And so you realize, wow, there's nobody driving American cars in Germany. It's not because of the kind of car. It's because they can't afford our cars. And so the American workforce has been tasked overseas and all that. Now, like, to set the foundation for this conversation, I am a free trade person. Like, my view of the world is there shouldn't be any tariffs or very few. And there should be very little regulation. Like, I understand some basic environmental regulation, some basic workplace justice regulation, but I don't think there should be much slowing people down in terms of like what, we should be able to trade. As evidence of that, it's probably true for you too. Like, I've got people that work for me, more than one, who are overseas. One of my writers is literally one of the smartest guys I know, brilliant, super hungry guy. He's from Colombia. He's from Colombia. He found me, by the way, he wrote his way onto our team. Brilliant kid. And now he's learning God talks, right? Come on. So like I have like a big view of the world. I think I think free trade is actually really important. That said, man, thank God someone's trying to level the playing field. And this is what I really like. I wish we could have got our heads around last week during the Great American Depression for 2 days. Is we've been asking for a long time for a president to think long term. Right now, and in Washington, we think in 2-year terms, right? So we've got like Congress, the House of Representatives, every 2 years, every single one of those people is up for election. In the Senate, it's every 6 years. So basically every 2 years, a third of the Senate is up for reelection. So basically like all of Washington turns over every 2 years or is up for election every 2 years. And so because of that, our leaders don't think generationally, they think like, what's going to happen at the next election? we've been hoping and praying for somebody who could think long term. I certainly plan on being like someone like that when I'm in charge.
Yes.
Literally to think 40 to 80 years into the future. And finally, we have a president that did it. Now, did he do it right? Did he do it without error? Did he do it with some error? Yeah, he did. Like, he maybe made some mistakes. I think he did, actually. I think maybe there was a little ego in there. I definitely think there was a little like arrogance. That's true to his personality. I'm not defending that. I'm not saying that was helpful or wise. What I am saying is thank God somebody thought long term for just a little while. And then what happened was the American people like lost it for 2 days. And I was kind of discouraged about that because I was talking about China and the Chinese people and what they would do. Listen, the Chinese people would suffer 40 years willingly for the sake of their country. And I'm not sure we're there here in the States anymore. Like we used to be. But now it's like, dude, the PlayStation 2 or whatever it was, Switch 2 was delayed. And everybody lost their mind. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think that he's got to have something in his back pocket because everything seems insane right now. So I'm just holding out.
You think he's playing like 5D chess or whatever?
I do.
He's got a plan.
I think he does, and I think a lot of it requires us not knowing what he's doing in order for it to be impactful. It's look over here at this left hand as I'm doing this, and then really he's being sneaky with the right. That's what I'm hopeful for.
That's the other thing that kind of drove me crazy a little bit about this thing was like everyone was like, he's just bluffing. And I'm like, well, could you like let him bluff for like a couple of days? Like everybody, all the people who are like, could you imagine you're playing cards and all your friends are behind you and you are totally bluffing? You've got like $36 trillion on the table and all your friends are like, duh, he's bluffing. Those are not friends, Right. So the people on Twitter who are like, no, Jesus bluffing. You don't think that China, you don't think they read the bluff? Anyway, that's my thought on current events. I do pray for the president. By the way, you should pray for the president, whether you believe in him, whether you think he's like, the second coming of the Messiah, or whether you think he's the second coming of, Adolf Hitler or whatever. And by the way, that's basically where we're at in the country with the division that we have. Either way you pray, it is important that you pray for the president. I pray for the last one. I pray for the one before that. I pray for the one before that. Sometimes reluctantly, but I always ask that God would bless them. So
yes. So we have an audience question. But before that, I found a clip that I want you to break down from a marketing perspective.
I own Coleman Liquidation. I sell mobile homes. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell it just like it is. These are mobile homes.
Wait, I'm doing this from marketing. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, great sound effect. Okay,
Not mansions.
let's do it.
They come in 2 pieces. If that's what you're looking for, that's what I got. They're used. Some of them have stains. We cover that up. She decorates them. She sells them. These guys help me move them.
Oh! Wait up, time out. All right, so some of you are listening and not watching this. Well, you got to go back and watch the video. They just cut to a clip of their salesperson smoking. That's all she was doing. She was smoking, and the wildcat sound. Hang on, we're gonna go back to this. Here she is. Boom. Oh,
A bouncer
we
in
missed the wildcat
Birmingham.
sound. Here we go.
A bouncer in Birmingham hit me in the face with a crescent wrench 5 times. And my wife's boyfriend broke my jaw with a fence post. So if you don't buy a trailer from me, it ain't gonna hurt my feelings. So come on down to Coleman Liquidation and get yourself a home. Or don't. I don't care.
He walks away. Oh, now they get the whole team. now they're running. Oh my gosh. That was the world's greatest. Kristin, I don't think I have a single critique. That was the world's most perfect commercial.
It was.
I can only assume you got to keep sending me clips like this. I can only assume this guy, Coleman, I can only assume everything in this clip are the things he uses when he does his sales pitch, right? Like, could you imagine walking onto the lot? Hold on. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Robert Lee. I own Coleman Liquidation. I sell mobile homes. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell it just like it is.
So could you see, like, you just walk onto the lot? I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell it just like it is.
These are mobile homes.
These are
not
mobile
mansions.
Not
They come in
mansions.
2 pieces. If that's what you're looking for, That's what I got.
That's like the perfect sales pitch. Hey, I sell mobile homes. If that's what you're looking for, that's what I got.
I like
They're used.
What's that?
I like the benefit laden statement. They come in 2 pieces. It's easy. It's like, oh my gosh, perfect.
All right. So we're coming into, I think, the high point of this video. For those of you listening, he's standing inside of a mobile home. There's wood panel, plywood floors. There's a massive stain. Who knows, by the way, what has caused this stain? And now he's going to address, this is sales 101. He's going to do the objection, address the objection, right? So here's how he's going to address the objection.
Some of them have stains. We cover that up. She
That's
decorates.
it. Hold up. Some of them have stains. We cover them up. That's like, hey, the situation is covered. All right, now he's going to introduce his team.
She sells them.
She sells
These
them.
guys help me move them.
These guys help me move. That's like Joe Dirt. That's the girl. That's the girl. Wow.
A bouncer in Birmingham.
All right, now this is the part that I don't totally understand. You can help me here with this one, Kristin, because you got like, we were talking about mobile homes there for a little while.
Yes.
And now he's like, a bouncer in Birmingham hit me with a crescent wrench. And my ex-girlfriend's husband beat me with a stool. Something like that. I can only guess. Again, I'm looking at this from a prospect because this is a marketing video. I can only guess he's going for like the answer to, he must have some big lump on the side of his face. And everyone's like, yo, Robert, yo, what happened, man? You okay? And then he'll go, oh, no, a bouncer in Birmingham. So check it out.
Hit me in the face with a crescent wrench 5 times. And my wife's boyfriend broke my jaw with a fence post. So if you don't buy...
It's important to know the crescent wrench to chin number was 5-to-1. That was the ratio. He's like 5 times. This is very specific.
Buy a trailer for me, it ain't gonna hurt my feelings.
I get it. So the point is like I've been beat up by a crescent wrench. So if you don't buy my thing, then it's cool. And then we switch to this little part where the guy's like cutting, like literally randomly cutting a tree down, but there's no narrative as to why this is happening. That's it. I'm just gonna cut this tree down.
So come on down to Coleman Liquidation and get yourself a home. Or don't. I don't care.
Or don't. All right. So the rest of the commercial, he walks into the distance, and then there's this situation with the team walking, and they're like a Avengers thing. They get closer, and then they just start running. Here comes the run. Gotta hurry up, Robert. Boom. Oh my goodness. Of course, we're gonna end with the eagle. Kristin,
Yes.
that may be the greatest video that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Thank you. I love to take credit.
I would like to actually pros that we change all of our marketing over to Robert Coleman style videos. We could start with the eagle, screeching eagle. We could do the whipping. This is Eamon. Eamon is the CEO of. Okay, good.
I think the B-roll of the hitch connecting to the trailer, it had so many wonderful implications. I think that was my favorite, actually my favorite part.
So,
It's like you can just, so many things. So many.
So there's a sales technique called future pacing where you actually put the prospect in the future and you have them imagine what it's going to be like inside this new mobile home or the trailer. And I think maybe the hitch situation is like, look, this could be you someday. You could be buying a subpar, stained but covered up mobile home 2-part situation from Robert Coleman, who did get hit 5 times with a crescent wrench on the side of his face from a bouncer in Birmingham.
To me, it's like the perfect reason why you do B-roll. So I want to challenge you, whether or not you actually do it, we'll see, to create some for this episode. Go outside and let your hair
Explain
you run.
For those of you who aren't videographers. That is a horrible pronunciation of that word. Explain B-roll. What is that?
Okay, so B-roll is footage that you can actually insert to pattern interrupt. You can do it to reflect future pacing, like you just mentioned. There's a lot of things. It's not you talking direct to screen. It's something that you can overlay and edit with. So B-roll. So for you, it'd be interesting if you went outside and I don't know, prune the garden or did the run, whatever it is that would be interesting to overlay into this video.
Okay.
Obviously horizontal. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you know what? I'm going to do that actually on this actual video. I'm just to prove the fact that, you know, we know how to do B-roll around here. I've got some I can't even Napa cabbage. I'm growing Napa by I'm growing. What I mean is my wife gave me the seeds, she planted them. I actually took a couple of them and transplanted them. I guess that's part of the process. Then she's been basically watering and feeding them. But I'm a little in love with kimchi at the moment, Kristin. I don't know why, but I love kimchi. I'm kind of obsessed with it. Even when I go out of town, my team will tell you we stop at Whole Foods and I buy some kimchi to take back to the hotel. It's a little of an obsession. I'm sure there's some sort of support group, Kimchi Anonymous or Fermented Foods or whatever. Anyway, I want to make my own kimchi. I did it once last year. Well, I'll tell you this story. It was about 6 months ago, actually. So I decided I was going to make my own kimchi. I bought the Napa cabbage from like the local Asian specialty store or whatever, and it was fine. But I knew I just wanted to make like the real thing. I will tell you. So the recipe called for 2 tablespoons of red pepper flakes. 2 tablespoons of red pepper flakes, people. So when I went to buy the red pepper flakes, the lady at the counter, let me put it this way. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just saying she didn't speak very good English. And I'm saying I'm not trying to be offensive because her English is way better than my Mandarin. Okay. So like I'm saying like she's a lot smarter than me. At least she's got this part of this language. So I picked up the red pepper flakes and she looked at me and she goes, hot is very, 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 very hot. Be caution, hot. And she really wanted to get her point across. And I wanted to buy hot red pepper flakes. I just didn't realize how hot they really were. And I kid you not, I bought these pepper flakes that must have been born on the moon, on the surface of the sun. When you do kimchi, you sort of mix it all into this big bowl when it's all ready. Kristin, for a day and a half, my hands were they were twice the size they are now, and they were throbbing.
My gosh.
And anything I touched, like if I touched my cheek, like if I did this, there'd be like a streak of pain. So anyway, I learned my lesson. But back to the B-roll, I'm going to show you some of my. I'm going to overlay this on this video. I'm going to put it right on there in my Napa cabbage. So I'll say Robert Coleman told me to.
Okay, we have a question from Gary. Yeah, he's been following you for 10 years. Can you play the audio?
Yeah, you actually know Gary. So this, I saw this earlier. This is Gary Rush, by the way. No relation. I would say no relation except for awesomeness. Gary, I think Kristin. So for those of you who don't know, Kristin and I used to do with a couple other partners here in town these big author events here in San Diego. And I think Gary came to one of those author events literally like 10 years ago. Became a certified coach in that old program. When we launched God Talk certification, he was the first one to become certified literally in God Talk certification. Just a beautiful individual, wonderful guy, does a lot of coaching in the Tony Robbins world. And Gary sent this question and I love it. So let's play it.
Hi, Ed. I had a question for you today. I have been practicing what I call think time for a couple of years to help me gain insights and wisdom for my business clients. And when I got your book, God Talks, I started using your process. And so now when I'm doing it, sometimes I get these insights and wisdom, and I'm not always clear if it's from my mind or from God. So could you please help me with that or clarify that? Thank you.
All right. Man, that's a good question. What do you think? No, don't answer it. You ever thought of that, by the way? Have you ever thought like, I don't even know, is that me? Or is that God?
Don't ask me rhetorical
questions.
Don't
ask rhetorical questions.
I'm autistic, man.
Kristin says, you are artistic. So
I am.
I'll tell you the answer. First of all, Gary, thanks for the question. We love Gary Rush. But I'll just tell you that is the single most common question I get, period. Not only do I get that question from total newbies, people who've never talked to God before, I actually get that question from some of the most experienced people who've been talking to God for 30 or 40 years. And so if you have that question, you are in good company. I will just tell you that there's a lot of voices out there. There's your inner voice. There's the voice of the world. There's the voice of your parents echoing in there someplace. There's your spouse's voice, your friend's voice. God's voice. And so there's a lot of voices up in that head of yours, and I can understand why that can be challenging. What I will tell you is the most contradictory thing has happened to me over the last 10 years. I thought that the better I got at hearing from God, and I've gotten a lot better, that I would be able to more accurately distinguish or discern those two voices. And I have in some ways. I mean, I know straight up when it's me. And there are some times when God just speaks and you're like, there's no doubt that directly came from him. But I will also tell you that as I've grown in sort of spiritual maturity and understanding in my walk with God, and certainly from hearing from him, what I've noticed is actually it becomes harder and harder to distinguish the two voices. And there's a reason for that. It's found right in 1 Corinthians. I think the reference is 1 Corinthians 2:16, who has said, I'll just read it. Paul said, for who has known the mind of the Lord as to instruct him, but we have the mind of Christ. Think about that for a moment. That's a transformational statement. We have the mind of Christ. Romans 12:1-2, Paul says, do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That word transformed, by the way, that Greek word is the word metamorpho. That's what butterflies do when they metamorphosis or during metamorphosis. It's also the same Greek word when the disciples or the apostles describe, or the New Testament writers describe Jesus' transfiguration. When he was transfigured, he was metamorphosed. In Greek, he was metamorphosized. Now check it out. If Paul's saying you need to be transformed, metamorphosized, literally into the mind of Christ, what that means is as you grow closer to him, you actually have a harder time distinguishing your thoughts and his thoughts because they actually start to become the same. It's amazing. Yes. And so, dude, I'll do these I find sometimes the place where God speaks most accurately for me is in my coaching sessions when I'm working with an entrepreneur, and I'll be giving them advice, and I'll be in the middle of the advice, and I'll think, wait a second, was that from me or was that from God? And just so you know, that's like one of the most wonderful places to be, when you can't even tell, was it my thought or was it God's thought, because the two have come together. So anyway, I encourage you, by the way, if you haven't gotten it, Gary mentioned this book called God Talks is sitting over my shoulder. Do that. By the way, I should have said this too. If you watch or listen to this podcast, you are now under a contractual obligation to share this with somebody. There's no options. You can't back out of it now. You got to push the button. I'm kidding. You can do whatever you want. But if you don't, you should feel really guilty.
China.
I asked God, do you want me to hear?
Yeah.
You want to hear what he told me? Yeah, I wrote it down. Okay. You're the one that taught me, by the way, how to listen. Okay. Yeah, you taught me how to listen to God, and you said, just start writing this down. This was years ago, back in 2018, I think. Anyway, so this was it. I grabbed my phone. I used to have to close my eyes and write with my eyes closed just so I could focus in on the voice. Oh yeah. You would see all my notebooks. You could see my handwriting going in all directions. You couldn't read it, but I had to write it, right?
That's what mine looks like with my eyes open. So we got that in common.
Today I used my phone. Okay. So he said to me, I speak in the waves. I speak in the wind. I speak in the light. I speak in the dark. I speak on the inside. I speak on the outside. I show you signs. I show you symbols. I show you wonders. I send wisdom. I send knowledge. I send angels, both in the physical and in the spirit. I am in everything. I am everywhere. I am.
Man.
I know.
Sounds like a song too.
Yeah. And there's something else.
Send that to Hillsong or Bethel or Celine Dion. One of those three will take it. That's good, man. That's good. Thanks. That's very poetic too. I don't think I get much poetry. Is that like your zone? Do you like that?
No, not at all.
Really?
Not at all. And normally he and I, it's just like you and I right now. This is the conversations that we have. So it was wild that he had me write it down like that. There's something I also have to say. Okay. And you said earlier, I listen, I hear him, but I don't always do what he says.
Yeah.
And what he told me was, listening and hearing my voice is one thing, but obedience is really what I'm after. So it's like, hearing him and then not doing anything with what you're hearing is a challenge, I think, for a lot of people. And there's this, all right, and you can edit all of this out, right? But there's this testimony that I want to tell you. So he has transformed me completely. You know, I used to go to the casino. It's funny that you brought the casino up. I used to numb myself in the casino. And he has removed that from my life. I used to smoke. He's removed cigarettes from my life. So
You used to
the
smoke a
a
lot.
lot,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot, a lot, a lot. And when I was in California, it wasn't just the cigarettes. So, you know, he has transformed me. And part of my journey was being obedient to him. And about a year ago, maybe less than a year, he told me to go to the casino. And I was like, this is nuts. There is absolutely no way that you're really telling me. So it took me forever to actually say, okay.
Yeah.
And then I scheduled 2 nights there. And on the drive, he told me that I am blessed to be a blessing. And I said, okay. And so I went there believing that I was meant to be a blessing for someone. And so I looked everywhere I went. I looked everywhere. Like I was looking in people's eyes, everything. And I was like, I have no idea who I'm supposed to bless. I went to dinner. And as I was eating, my waitress, you could tell that she had been crying.
Yeah.
And so she didn't want to talk to me about anything. She just really wanted to serve me and get done with it. But by the end, I asked her, I said, what's going on? You know, what's wrong with you? What's happening? I can feel it. And she said, my brother just died and I have to be here because we need the money. We cannot sustain unless I'm here and my family is gathering. So she started crying. I started crying. I tipped her, you know, better than I think anybody else. But it was like that feeling like that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. And so I allowed her to just be in my mind, and I went and sat down and I did play at the casino. And I got about $500, $600 up and I stopped, right? And I'm like, okay, this is for her. And so I went upstairs.
real?
Yeah, I went upstairs. I wrote her a note. Like I set it aside. I'm like, this is for her. The next day, I went down and I told her in the note, I said, hey, listen, God told me to come to the casino and to bless someone. And I believe it's you. And so I told her the whole story in this note. And then the next day I went down to the restaurant and I could see her in there. So I just walked in and I handed her the money in the note
Oh,
and
wow.
she burst into tears
Wow.
and I burst into tears. And so we are sitting there hugging each other, holding on to each other and crying in the middle of this restaurant. Right. And so by the time, and she didn't know my name. I don't remember her name. Same thing, you know, it doesn't matter. We were being used. And so I went into the casino, sat down at a machine, put $100 in there, hit the button maybe twice, and I won $5,000.
Are you serious?
I am serious. I lost it. I was bawling in the middle of the casino because I'm like, he said 10 times. And I was like, wow, you are so great. And then I
Wow.
tried to go and give more money away to people. Yeah, there's more
Wait,
to this story.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
man, that is awesome, Kristin. Good job. By the way, let me just caveat a few things because there's like everybody listens to this show. Okay. So, I mean, not everybody, but almost everybody listens to this
Almost.
show. Anybody, I mean, if you're cool, anyone who's cool, you know, the not cool people don't. Did you just hear Kristin say that, you know, the Bible says that you should go to a casino? No. Is that the normal sort of like everyday action of a person who follows Jesus? No. Okay. I will say that there's always weird people who are like, God would never tell someone to ever. Yeah, you know what? He probably would. This is a person who, when he was on earth, one of the biggest criticisms of Jesus was he hung out with pimps and prostitutes and tax collectors and drug addicted people. And let me ask you a question. If your friend was hanging out all night with pimps and prostitutes and drug addicted people, what would you think of your friend? You'd be like, dude, what's up, Craig? What's going on in your life? But apparently Jesus had no issue at all hanging out with the worst people in the world. And one of the reasons why is because he was after their hearts. And another reason why is they're a lot more fun to hang out with than the religiously accusatory, judgy people. So don't you be judgy on that story because that's an amazing story. What I also find interesting is you got a 10x reward on that one.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while for that to come in. And you got about an immediate return.
Instant.
That doesn't always happen,
Instant.
just so you know, like that quickly. But your obedience was your obedience. And it's interesting too. Like I was kind of joking earlier in the show about a conversation with God. I do that all the time with him. My experience is you actually find freedom in the conversation. So he's spoken to me recently about being more active online on social media and things like this podcast. And at first I was like, I don't want to do that at all. And he's like, well, I want you to. And I said, I don't want to. I don't want to take pictures of my breakfast or my lunch. I don't want to show people like, hey, what's up, guys? I'm at Disneyland. I just want to go to Disneyland with my family and not have to, broadcast it to the world. And in the conversation we had about a 35-minute conversation, God and I, he convinced me because he showed me the love that I have for people and how much people need to hear the message. And I was like, oh, and the conversation changed my motivation. So my encouragement to you as you're listening is I was kind of, as I'm describing this banter with God, you can have that too, as long as the line of communication is open. But Kristin, congratulations on that courage. It takes a lot of courage. Sometimes when God says something that's so strange, I've had him say things before. I've had him, like there was a time he asked me to give a certain amount of money, like to some random individual. And I remember like, what? It was so off. I actually called a friend of mine and I had to like pray through it with him. And at the end of it, my friend's like, yeah, go for it. But sometimes you need to like grab a partner and pull someone in. By the way, it's the way you keep yourself from going crazy too, or doing something that you probably shouldn't do. But that's an amazing story, dude. Congratulations. I love it.
Hey, thanks. Just obedience, man. I had no idea how it'd play out, but I was ready. Just like Abraham, right? Blessed to be a blessing. Wasn't that Abraham?
Yeah.
I think, right? Yeah. So I didn't know how it played in nowadays, and it was neat to see it. So, yeah.
All right. So I think that's it. What do we cover today? We got China. Covered China. We got how to not to be a stalker. By the way, remember that story about Jamie driving behind that person, praying for that person? I didn't do that, Kristin, but I drove the whole way home from Maricopa. It was 4.5-hour drive. I drove the speed limit almost the whole way.
Stop.
I literally parked my Toyota Tundra Platinum cruise control on the speed limit. As I got closer to home, I kind of like passing some people. I got a little faster, but dude, I drove across the desert. It's 75 though. I shouldn't cry about this. It's a pretty fast speed limit, but so I'm just telling you, I'm learning too. So,
way to die to self, Ed. Good job.
So we talked about China. We talked about how I didn't really pray for anybody in front of me. I was like, come on, man, 72, So I'm working on it. We talked about China. We had a wonderful conversation about hearing from God and even heard Kristin's story. Our intent is to do one of these shows every week. Notice I said our intent. We're going to do our best. I think it's fun, and I would love to have a conversation with you. By the way, send in your questions, please. In audio format would be amazing. Do share this. If you like this, share it. Send someone to the part that you like or the timestamp that you like, and certainly engage with us on social media. Kristin, thanks for the story. Thanks for the time. Let's do it again, okay?
Sounds good, Ed Rush. Have a wonderful day.
Ed Talks Live is out.